They hid a secret in her engagement ring. I still remember the night it all began. The moon was bright, and the whole village gathered for a celebration. Everyone came with drums, laughter, and food. They said love had conquered fear that night. Oba, the wealthy young man, had finally chosen his bride, the beautiful Abini. People clapped and cheered as Oba held her hand. He smiled with such confidence, like a man who had nothing to hide. But there was something in his eyes, something that made even the oldest elder frown. When Oba placed the golden ring on Abini's finger, everyone gasped. It was not like any ring they had ever seen. The gold glowed like fire, and strange markings curved around it like snakes. Some whispered that it was crafted by a goldsmith who worked only at night, a man who never looked into the eyes of the living. But Abini was too happy to care. She believed this ring was a symbol of true love. She believed this ring would protect her forever. She smiled at Oba, not knowing the truth that was hidden inside that small circle of gold. That night, when the music stopped and the village grew silent, Abini lay in her bed staring at the ring. It sparkled even in the darkness. But then something strange happened. The ring began to grow warm. Abini felt it pulsing against her skin, like a beating heart. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but then she heard it, a whisper, soft, almost like a voice calling her name. She pulled her hand back, but the whisper followed. Abini! Abini! Her heart raced. She tried to take the ring off, but it would not move. It clung to her finger as if it had grown roots deep into her flesh. The next morning, she told Oba what had happened, but he only smiled and said she was dreaming. He kissed her hand, and the ring shimmered again. But as he walked away, Abini noticed the shadow he left behind did not match his steps. It moved slower, almost as if it belonged to someone else. That was the first sign that something was terribly wrong. Days passed, and the whispers grew louder. At night, the ring would glow faintly, and Abini would see shapes inside the stone. Sometimes she thought she saw faces. Sometimes she thought she saw eyes watching her. One night, she could not take it anymore. She held the ring close to the firelight, and that was when she saw it clearly. Inside the stone, there was a tiny eye. It blinked. It looked right at her. She dropped her hand in terror, but the eye did not disappear. It was alive. She ran to the elders, begging for answers. One of them, an old woman with a crooked back, looked at the ring and trembled. She said the markings were not decorations. They were ancient symbols used to bind souls. The ring was not a gift of love. It was a prison. The old woman said every bride who had worn that ring before Abini had vanished without a trace. Their families searched, but no one found their bodies. The truth was simple. Their spirits were trapped inside the ring, feeding the power of Oba's family. Abini's knees grew weak. She begged the elder to help her remove it, but the woman shook her head. Once the ring accepted a bride, it would never let her go. The only way to break the curse was to confront Oba and force him to reveal the secret of his family. Abini was terrified, but she knew she had no choice. That night, when Oba came to see her, she asked him directly, "What did you give me, Oba? What lives inside this ring?" For the first time, Oba's smile faded. He looked at her with cold eyes and said, "Now you belong to me forever." The truth spilled out like poison. The ring was a chain, passed down from generation to generation. Every bride who wore it became a sacrifice to the spirits that gave his family wealth and power. Without the ring, his family would lose everything. Abini realized she was next. She tried to run, but the ring grew tighter. Her breath grew heavy. She fell to the ground as shadows crawled from the ring and wrapped around her arms. But Abini was not weak. She remembered the elder's words. If she could face Oba and resist the darkness, the curse would break. She prayed with all her strength. She called on the God of truth and light. The shadows hissed, but she did not stop. The more she prayed, the more the ring began to crack. Oba shouted in rage. He tried to grab her hand, but the ring shattered into pieces with a sound like thunder. A terrible scream echoed through the village. Out of the broken stone, hundreds of faces poured out, the souls of the brides who had been trapped for so long. They flew into the night sky, free at last. Oba fell to the ground. His wealth vanished. His body turned to ash, leaving nothing behind but the dust of lies. The villagers who had once admired him now saw the truth. They realized his riches came not from hard work, but from the suffering of innocent women. Abani stood in the center of the village, the broken pieces of the ring at her feet. She was no longer afraid. She had broken the curse, not just for herself, but for all the women before her. The villagers praised her bravery. They called her the girl who fought the shadows and won. From that day on, no one in the village wore a ring without first knowing where it came from. Mothers told their daughters the story of Abini, warning them to look beyond the shine of gold and see the truth inside. Because not every gift is a blessing. Some gifts are chains. And I tell you this story so you will remember. Sometimes the things that shine the brightest hide the darkest secrets. They hid a secret in her engagement ring, but Abini's courage turned that curse into a lesson for us all. Now, what would you do if the person you loved the most gave you a gift that whispered your name at night? Would you keep it or would you run? Think carefully, because not every ring is just a ring.